is one case that impacted you and your team?
Huge consignment of arms and ammunition transported to Maharashtra from Arabian Sea. We recovered about 16 AK-47 rifles, 3,200 AK-47 ammunition, 47 kilos of RDX, 50 hand grenades. The 3 C's which attract people attention: crime, cinema, cricket. Bhagavad Gita says, once you have performed your role, detach from it.
Some people who might develop some grudges or negative feelings. So were there instances where you were sought after by those people?
He wrote a letter to me in red color. On that top, he mentioned, this is blood.
Do you really think everybody deserves the same kind of justice?
Nirbhaya, Disha here. The RG Kar medical intern was raped and murdered. So many unreported cases are also happening. Why these people are behaving like animals? It is the failure of the government.
The destruction of the evidence or whatsoever, when it finally comes to you, there have been a lot of lapses.
The mob came and they disturbed the entire scene of crime.
If Pawan Kalyan Garu invites you to join his party again, will you?
You need to be having some political power if you want to change. Then I left the party.
Hello viewers, welcome to another captivating episode on the Bizz show. Before we dive into the podcast, I would want to ask you all a very simple question. What is one word that we hear very regularly on a day-to-day basis? Of course, we can term quite a few, but I bet one word that we hear very frequently these days is scandals. In the past, we have had 27 high-profile scandals that have shook our nation to the core. In spite of the different intent, people involved and modus operandi, there is one name that has sparked a terror in the minds of all these criminals, and still it is. So much that his work became his initials. So by now, you might have guessed who our prolific guest is. Yes, it's none other than the dynamic, courageous and vivacious JD Lakshminarayana. From being the poster boy of the Indian police force to establishing his own political party, Jai Bharat, he has come a very long way. He is now interested in serving people by entering politics with a special emphasis on rural development and agriculture. So, let's welcome him. So, it's a pleasure having you with us today. So, you have pursued your BTech from NIT Warangal and MTech from IIT Madras. So, can you tell us what inspired you to pursue civil services and your journey into law enforcement?
It was an accident. As I mentioned earlier also, I wanted to become a professor. I like teaching. So teaching is my passion because my mother was a school teacher. So then after my BTech, immediately I started pursuing my MTech also. Then I joined my PhD also. So that I want to finish it off in one go and then join and teach. But one day while coming back to my hostel after completing my research work, practical work, I saw two of my friends preparing for something because the lights were on in their rooms. So I went and knocked their rooms. I said, at 2 o'clock in the night, what are you doing? They said, we are preparing for civil services. So that is the first time I heard about civil services. Then I asked them, what is the civil services? What about this? Then they told me that the UPSC conducts this exam and you have prelims, mains and interview. And then, you have a chance to display your knowledge also, by performing well. Then morning I met my friends in the dining hall and I told them this is what happened. Then I said, let us prepare. So then 4 of us, we said, let us prepare for these examinations. And then all 4 of us, we prepared and we cleared. And that is how I joined the civil service. It's a sudden shift. It's not like nowadays people, they fix their goal as clearing the civil services and then they attempt. It was an accidental, like a book called Accidental Prime Minister. So it's also accidental civil servant I am. Yeah.
So, but I think it's very tough, right? How did you crack it in, preparing in such short span?
When you are free, I think you can prepare much better. Under tension, preparation becomes much difficult because I always had my alternative. I would have completed my PhD and I would have pursued my teaching profession. But this, out of passion, we started writing. I mean, let us see what is this examination and how to go about it. And I mean, we did not attend any coaching or any institute also. We prepared on our own. So, I mean, whenever you are on your own, I think you become more creative and more innovative. That's how I think we cleared those examinations. Yeah.
So, towards law enforcement?
I mean, that is what, how, I mean, your preference and also the rank, that is how the UPSC decides about which service you are going to be. So I got into the IPS. I said I'll join, and I continued. Yes.
So that's very inspiring, sir. And from your past interviews and your extensive profile, we also came to know that you have given, lot of your services and lot of your time and your expertise to the Maharashtra anti-terrorism squad.
Yeah, because I was allotted Maharashtra cadre, and I joined in the year 1990 after training. I continued in Maharashtra from 1990 to 2006.
So that was your first post.
I mean, we join as ASPs initially, Assistant Superintendent of Police. Then you will be promoted. Then you pick up. I joined the Maharashtra Anti-terrorism Squad as a DIG in the year 2006. So that is how I got into the anti-terrorism squad was started. I mean, just I think a year back, way back in 2005. Then in the first batch, I was one of the officers who have been was selected, and I was posted after picking my promotion from SP ship to the DIG ship. Yeah.
So can you tell us one case that profoundly impacted you and your team?
In ATS, anti-terrorism squad, yes, it was quite an interesting case because we work on intelligence and information. So we got a tip off that huge consignment of arms and ammunition is being transported into Maharashtra from the Arabian Sea, from Gujarat route. Then we got the information, and we started checking vehicles and all. And suddenly, two vehicles they did not stop, and they started fleeing. Then we followed them. One Tata Sumo vehicle, and there was a Tata Indica vehicle. So we could catch the Sumo vehicle, and then we started searching the vehicle. And we found these computer cabinets, the CPU cabinets, big ones. So then we opened the cabinets, and to our surprise, we found AK-47 rifles in that. There were 10 such cabinets there, and 3 people we arrested immediately, and then we interrogated them. Then they said there is another vehicle which has gone towards Malegaon. There is a place called Malegaon in Maharashtra, in Nashik district. Then we went there, and we could recover another 5 more, 6 more these cabinets. So in total, we recovered about 16 AK-47 rifles, about 3,200 AK-47 ammunition, and then about 47 kilos of RDX, then 50 hand grenades. Then we arrested almost about 22 people, I think, in the process from the entire Maharashtra. Because actually what happened is, after the Godhra incident, so a group was formed with base at Aurangabad, and then these consignment was sent to them to create disturbance, especially in South India, and also to take revenge. Mr. Narendra Modi was the Chief Minister of Gujarat at that time, and Mr. Praveen Togadia was also there. He was the Chief of VHP. So these are the assigned targets given to them, that with this arms and ammunition, you have to see that something is done to them. So that is how we could chase and arrest these people, and also we could seize so much of arms and ammunition. And finally, all these people, I think out of 20, I think 14 got convicted. All the life imprisonments have been given to them after the trial in the Mumbai court, and now they are all in the jail. I mean, it was a correct intervention at the right time. Otherwise, you imagine the situation where the 16 AK-47s being given to people and they creating issues in the whole this thing. That was, I think, as you said, it's one of the remarkable cases which I think I was there in that team also. In fact, I was there in the vehicle which we chased that vehicle, and we actually stopped it.
That's why, sir, you are known to be one of the most daring and dashing police officers. I mean, that's a kind of title given to you by your followers. Sir, we also know that you have handled about 27 high profile cases. So, how did you ensure impartiality and how did you manage to conduct thorough investigation in spite of intense public and media scrutiny?
Because generally, investigation is the bread and butter of the police department. One is prevention of crime. After the crime occurs, you have to properly investigate because the whole criminal justice system is based on that. If somebody commits a crime, so you investigate and book him, bring him to the court, then conduct the trial, and in the trial, if he is convicted, he is punished. Then after reformation, he comes back to the society. This is what is the criminal justice system all about. So investigation becomes very, very important. So there are premier investigating agencies in the country also. Of course, all police, they do the investigations, but investigation as the main focus, there are organizations like the CBI, you have the Enforcement Directorate now, and you have the NIA, National Investigating Agency. So these are some of the agencies where they concentrate on the investigation. So for 7 years, I was in the CBI, in the Premier Investigation Agency of this country. During that time, as you mentioned, there were so many important cases which were given by the High Court of Andhra Pradesh here, and some cases we got from the Supreme Court also. So basically, the thing is, whenever there is a high profile case, media is after you. There is, as you are mentioning, and also the public scrutiny is also there. Whenever there is a high profile case, so people take a lot of interest because there are three C's which attract people attentions. The first one is the crime, the second one is the cinema, the third one is the cricket. So these three C's, people take a lot of interest. So crime and also 27 high profile cases. So people, media and everybody used to have a this thing on us, yes. And also ensuring the impartiality, what you mentioned, is very important because in our criminal justice system, what is said is, even if 10, 100 people on whom some charges are there, even if they escape, it doesn't matter. But one innocent should not be punished. That is what is our criminal justice system is about. So you have to be extremely careful when you are investigating. No innocent person should be touched. And also, under what circumstances these people have committed the crime. And also, you need to have a plan of investigation. That is what in CBI we have the plan of investigation, how to go about it. Once you know the route, it becomes easy for you to go through that. So, plan of investigation, then how to do it. And also, the beauty of the organization is that you have law officers with you to assist you. There are people, advocates, and who have sufficient knowledge in conducting trials in the court. They are also part of your system. So, they keep guiding you. And also, it's a hierarchical system wherein you are not the single person to take any opinion. So I write my opinion. It goes to my senior. He looks at it from a different angle and he writes his own opinion. Then finally, the cases go to the director of CBI. Then he takes a different view. He may take a different view. He may not agree with us. So there is always a discussion or expressing your opinion that is there on paper. So that's why even if I make a mistake somewhere, there are so many hierarchical positions wherein they can rectify my decision or they may agree with me. So that is how it is. So basically the thing is, because of this hierarchical system and also the close scrutiny and other things, and also there is no point in punishing somebody without somebody committing it. That is also there. Generally, whenever you handle a political case, that means people in politics being shown as an accused in your case, so there is a lot of criticism because always an opposition team always says this organization is working on behalf of the ruling party. Exactly. This is bound to happen because whenever political cases are there, the organizations or the institutions are bound to have this criticism. But you have to be above the criticism because your conscience knows what you are doing. But these criticisms are, of course, they are bound to be there because political people are involved. The same people, when in opposition, they take a view. When the same people go to the ruling party, they take a different opinion. So, the political opinions or the political viewpoints, it should not affect you. That is what I followed. Let political people, whatever comments they make, let them make. But the law is there, the procedure is there, and you are accountable to the courts. So, these three things, if you can follow, then you can always sustain this scrutiny, maybe media scrutiny, or political criticism also. That is what I followed.
So, as you served as the Joint Director of CBI, which in fact became your initial, I mean, I think more people address you that way. So, in your tenure, what did you find most challenging aspect was?
Challenging, each case is a challenge, because the type of cases which we handled here, each case is a challenge, because say from fudging of balance sheets to mining and to disproportionate assets, then into various things we investigated, because each case has it is a unique case. So that's why each case, the main thing was that the insufficient staff which I had, because if you consider the organization in which I worked, it was almost 10 years back. So we had only 5,000 people in the entire country, right from the director to the constable, and the cases which are coming are of huge magnitude. So finally, you had to sacrifice your personal life and you had to concentrate more on the professional life. So each case had a distinct this thing, and also because people who are involved in those cases are also very, I mean, they're financially sound, politically they have a backing. So they used to take up each and every case up to the Supreme Court. So then we had to prepare ourselves along with the battery of advocates what we have, and finally we had to fight in the high courts and also to the Supreme Courts. That was a big challenge. That is a big challenge. In the process, the professionalism in us also has increased. Whenever do you do a high profile case or an investigation, then you learn so many things. And when you investigate the cases with different magnitudes and different subjects, and also your professional knowledge also will improve. That helped me when I went back to the state of Maharashtra in guiding my own officers and also in taking them through the process of investigation. So that is how I said each and every case was a very learning experience for me.
So, sir, how did you handle, any setbacks or personal criticism or that immense pressure? So, how did you deal with it?
Basic thing is non-attachment. You be detached. What happens is whenever you are attached to something, you are if something happens, you will become sorrow, or you feel bad.
Absolutely.
So you do your work professionally and don't get attached to it. This is what Bhagavad Gita says, because I read the Bhagavad Gita. He says you have attached detachment. So you get attached as long as you are performing your role. Once you have performed your role, detach from it. That doesn't give you any sorrow or any this thing to you.
But I think that's very difficult to follow.
Yeah, you have to practice it. You have to practice it. Yeah. That is
so I think different. By expertise, we'll also definitely follow it in practice.
Because attachment always leads to sorrow. If things do not happen the way you want, then the moment you say this is my job and I have to do, I did it to the best of my ability.
Absolutely.
So then get detached. When you are doing it, get attached fully. Once you complete it, get detached. So the professional thing will be there, and you also will be same. You don't feel bad, or if some criticism is there or from somewhere.
So, but I mean, what we have heard as a layman and general public is that even if the case is completed, done and dusted from your end, there might be some people who might develop some grudges or have some kind of, this feeling, negative feeling. So, were there instances wherein you were, sought after by those people?
This is called occupational hazard. There is always an occupational hazard. Suppose, see, as a media person, if you pick up an article and if you expose it and all, definitely you are also going to attract some attention from some people. I mean, it is happens to in any profession also. So like this, the type of cases we handled, always we used to get some threatening letters. Sometimes I used to get letters through post and all, through mail. I used to see and hand it over to the intelligence department here. It is their job to find out who has written and what action they should be taken. So sometimes I used to do like this. So the person who was sending it, he got perturbed. Then he wrote a letter to me in red color. So on that top he mentioned, this is not ink but this is blood. So we are committed that we are going to be do something to you and to your family. So be careful. So don't take stringent action against the people in our cases. So these are usual things. This is all the occupational hazard part of it. So I gave it to the intelligence, and whatever action they initiated. Yeah.
So, but it didn't affect your morale.
Nothing. I mean, we are prepared for it. No? A man serving in the zoo, he feeds animals. There is a possibility that the tiger or the lion may like him, and it may kill him also. Same thing happened in our Hyderabad zoo also. But it doesn't mean that that person will refuse to go and feed the animals. So it's an occupational hazard. A lineman climbing onto an electric pole, there is a chance of getting a shock also. So that doesn't mean that he will not climb the pole. He has to do it. So these are all the occupational hazards which you are prepared to. Once you are joining a service, I mean, you know that something like this is going to happen, and you have to be prepared for it. That's all. Yeah.
So, what do you think are the most pressing challenges facing law enforcement agencies today, and how do you think they can be handled?
Yeah. Because the society is changing. The society is slowly changing. The bonding in the society is slowly getting lesser and lesser, because the families are used to be united, society used to be united, and people used to feel that the country is ours. I mean, used to have patriotic feelings. But of late, what is happening is materialistic things are dominating in one's process. That means it is the money, it is the wealth that is dominating one's vision or viewpoint. So, for money, people are ready to do anything. Nowadays, if you see, for accumulation of wealth, they are ready to forego their family relations, they are ready to commit bigger crimes, they are ready to commit economical offenses. That's why economical offenses are increasing nowadays. The traditional crime is reducing, economical crime is, that too also being perpetrated by most educated people, because ultimately your value in the society is decided by the wealth you carry. So the society is changing. So in the background of this, or in the backdrop of this, working is becoming very difficult. The tendency of committing crime is also increasing. The family relations are breaking. So ultimately you have the police force which needs to handle all these things. Earlier, the families used to take care of the small disputes that used to happen in the families. Now, for simple thing, they are coming to the police station, and the police is supposed to register a case, investigate, and send them to the court. Nowadays, family courts have become very busy courts nowadays because of the differences and these things. Domestic complaint, domestic violences, all these things are happening. So, similarly, the society also is changing, and the political this thing is also changing. The concept of divide and rule, the politicians are playing much, and they are dividing people based on their religion, based on caste. So that is making the society very difficult to handle. The passions and emotions are being aroused, especially by the political parties. All these things the police has to tackle, but at the same time, police do not have sufficient force to control all these things. The diversified duties of police also. Earlier, VIP security was not a duty. Earlier, politicians used to move very freely with people. Now, every MLA is supposed to have 2 gunmen, and Z security, Z plus security, all these securities have come in. So, the concentration or the police is more oriented towards protecting these dignitaries. Otherwise, prevention of crime and investigation should have been the priorities of the police. Now, your VIP protection is very important. If suppose something happens in the meeting of a CM, you are gone. You will be suspended. You are removed. So, the whole concentration is on that. That was not there earlier. So then, the disturbances, I mean the fracturing of the society, that also making police people to exert more. But at the same time, the police force is not increasing in numbers. I mean, always governments think that it is an expenditure department. It's not a revenue earning department. So if you see there is no sufficient strength for the policeman, and also he is overstressed. So there are situations where, I mean, 2 to 3 days they do not have any rest. If some important case happens, they can't go home also. So that is how the policeman is always under great stress. When you are under stress, you are bound to commit some mistakes. So that is also happening. So with limited numbers, you are supposed to control the entire society. That is a big challenge to the police, and also the divisive forces that are operating in the country. So they are dividing people for their own benefit. So to make people come together, that is also a big challenge to the police with limited powers. Police powers are what they can arrest, they can send them to the court, and they can take them to the trial. But to play a positive role, police also need some additional powers. So that is also is the requirement. I find that something needs to be done, but I don't have power. I have only powers to arrest somebody and to reform somebody. But if I want to change the society, the control is in somebody else's hands. So all the failures finally police has to take. Suppose if there is a demand by the people that the electricity charges should be reduced. So they come and gather and they have demonstrations against the government and all. And ultimately, if the demonstration goes out of control, it is the confrontation between the police and the demonstrators. Ultimately, the police and this thing they have to handle. So basically, the government's response, the police has to handle. That's why I always say, for a common man, the government is police, because police is identifiable because they wear uniform. So how the police functions, the people will have a perception about the government functioning also. But many governments, they feel that police do not have any role in development. But I always say police have very important role in development. That's why Fidel Castro once he said, if you want development, you need to have peace in that area. If you want to have peace, you need to have justice there. If you want to have justice, you need to have rule of law. If you want to have rule of law, you should have efficient policemen. So development is directly linked to efficient policemen. So the government should not think that police have no role in development. Why in few states the investments are not going? Because there is no law and order in that. So investors also, they always see whether our investment will be safe, whether your workers in the plant are going to be safe or not, whether I can freely move in my plant. So states where the law and order is good, the investments are bound to come. That the governments or the politicians have to understand, and they should leave the policemen to do their duty. They should not interfere in their this thing. Then development of those states will take place.
Absolutely, sir. Yeah. And as we see day after day, the cases are becoming very complex. I mean, due to technological advancements, and even the criminals are becoming very sharp and witty and overpowering the agencies in fact. So, do you think is India and all our law enforcement agencies equipped to handle that?
Yeah, training forms a very important part in police. You have to be trained because new technologies are coming, artificial intelligence is coming, machine learning is coming. So these are all bound to have an impact on the crime. So the policemen or the investigators, they also should be sufficiently trained. So the continuous training is very important, and also providing technological know-how to the police also, maybe in the form of gadgets, in the form of equipment, because you have to be ahead of them. When I joined Mumbai as a DCP way back in 1996, the mobile phones were just introduced in the market. So I visited that company and I was asking, but by that time already the gangsters were using them. So technologically you should be ahead of them. So there is always a fight between the technology. Technology can be used both the ways. So mostly the technology is used by the criminals. Now because of the internet and all, you need not be in the state. You can be anywhere and still you can commit crime. Suppose somebody wants to hack your bank account, he need not be in Hyderabad. He can be anywhere and he can do that. So now investigation becomes very difficult, because finally I had to trace him somewhere and then I had to bring him. Bringing him to this country also, you have so many laws and legislations, you have to extradite him, then you have to put him to the court. It's a procedure. So what police have to insist is about the prevention. Suppose if you use sufficient firewalls, because if you see newspapers every day, so many people are affected because of the cyber crime. Because suddenly you get a call and immediately you respond, you start giving your OTPs, then in the process you are losing. Suddenly they say against you some FIR is booked in Mumbai and some narcotics have been found in a consignment booked in your name. Then they say, now you speak to our deputy commissioner or to the commissioner, and somebody in uniform will be seen in the video call also. Then common gullible people, they think that everything is true and they start listening to their commands. So like this, people are losing amounts in crores of rupees. So that's why people also have to be very well alert. So educating people is also very important. Educating people from the law point of view is also very important. So that's why I always insist on the governments introduce law as a subject right from 6th standard. Introduce constitution as a subject right from 6th standard onwards, so that by the time they come out of the institutions, they are well versed with the constitution, they are well versed with the law, so that they cannot become prey to such type of frauds or such type of crimes. So this also needs to be taken up by the government, and also continuous and constant training of the police forces, because police forces have to be ahead of the criminals. So then only you can book them or you can catch them. Of course, with this cyber thing, I mean, as I mentioned, there is no limit. You can operate from anywhere and you can commit the crime. Only thing is prevention has to be given more and more importance, and people also have to actively participate and also actively listen to the instructions being given by the law enforcement agencies.
Absolutely. So, do you think, sir, justice is? I mean, we have a lot of quotations that everybody is equal before law and all of it. But do you really think everybody is being served the same kind of justice, or do you think there are some laws that are delaying the punishment, or in particular cases, as we have seen recently in the Kolkata case? So, do you think we should bring in more stringent laws in order to punish the criminals more?
Yeah, stringent laws is not the solution. If you see, after Nirbhaya in 2012, Justice Verma Commission has come and there were a lot of changes. Even death penalty has been included in the law. But still the incidents are continuing.
Exactly.
So that means there are certain forces which we need to think about. There are always, I say, there are three things which control the behavior of a human being. Because why these people are behaving like animals? Because animal tendencies are there in each human being. Only thing is, certain things are keeping them under control. Once those controls are gone, the man is converting into an animal and committing these crimes. So your home is very important. The way your upbringing is very important. What you are taught in your home is very important by the parents. So parental education or education by the parents when a person is a child is very important. Second one is the education. What you learn in school. What you are learning nowadays is how to pass examinations, how to get grades, how to clear the examination, how to memorize and do it, but not how to become an individual, a responsible citizen, and you should be able to distinguish between good and bad. What is good, what is bad, what should be done, what should not be done. That type of education is slowly lacking. The third one is the spirituality. Spirituality, irrespective of the religion, spirituality also controls a human being. So these three things, if they fail, then man is converting into an animal and he is committing such type of heinous crimes. So having stringent laws is one thing, and reviving these systems is also very important. So reviving these three systems are going to be very, very important, because just by having stringent laws, it will not, affect the human being. Because if you see the Middle East countries, they have different set of punishments. Stoning to death and hanging in public. These are some of the punishments which they are introduced. But in our country, we have death penalty also for a rape case. But still, you see Nirbhaya. Then you had Disha here. Then you see the RG Kar medical, the innocent, that intern was raped and murdered. So these are happening. There are so many unreported cases are also happening, and every day you open the newspaper after Nirbhaya, again also so many cases are happening. So it is not just the stringent law, and also the speed at which justice is delivered, that is also very important. Suppose if you take Nirbhaya, it happened in 2012, finally in the year 2020, they were hanged. So it took 8 years for such a heinous crime. So what we need to do is, we need to have special courts. We need to conduct the trials very fast, and maybe say within 6 months, if the things are investigated, then the trial is conducted and the accused are punished, then it will have impact. Otherwise, law is there, it has a very major punishment, but it is taking so much of time to execute, so that is also is not having enough impact. So, immediately the thing is that you should have special courts and you should have good investigators and you should conduct the trial very fast and you see that the accused is punished, so that it will have a deterrent effect on the people. And also the pendency in the courts also is there. Suppose if you see in India, there are 5 crore cases pending in the courts. Supreme Court, you have about 50 to I think 75,000. That's what the Chief Justice said the other day. And High Courts, you have about 60 lakh cases. And more than 4 crore cases are pending in the lower judiciary. So this is like a conveyor belt. So new fresh cases keep adding, and the old cases, if they are not disposed, the conveyor is going to be filled. So the disposal also has to be faster. So like that, you need to have more courts, more judges, and maybe there is a thinking that the courts also should function in 2 shifts. 2 shifts, so that the dispensation of justice will be faster. So all these things need to be add up, and all these things need to be considered. Just by having a stringent law is not sufficient. So this has to be backed up by all these things, especially the home, the school and the temple. These 3 things have to play their role which is assigned to them. If they don't perform their role, then this is what is going to, human being is going to become an animal.
Sir, looking back at your career, what advice would you give young aspiring officers to make a mark in the law enforcement agency field?
I always ask them to keep their feet on the ground. And also you should be able to mix with people and you should understand the problems of the people. Then you can appreciate their situation or the conditions much better. Suppose somebody coming to a police station for lodging a complaint. What type of behavior the people sitting there should express? Because a man goes to a police station when there is nothing else works for him. So in those situations, how you need to receive? Imagine yourself in the in his position, in his shoes. How you expect the behavior of the policeman towards you. So if you have that type of attitude, then it becomes easier and you can really contribute. And also you should not have any compound or any particular line drawn that this is my duty, this is not my duty, something like that. Everything, if a citizen is suffering, it is your job to intervene. That type of intervention also is required. So such type of understanding of the society is also very important, because there are different sections of society. You should understand each society, and also the psyche of the people also you should understand. There is a concept called transactional analysis, which is very important. I mean, in which state an individual is there, you should be able to console. Agitating students, they are in a different form. For example, if you take Kolkata, where they are agitating, their mindsets are totally different. So the police have to handle in a different manner altogether. So depending on the agitator's mindset, the response of the police force also has to be like that. Yes, they are agitating for a cause. I mean, you should be able to convince them that what you are doing as an investigator, because the crime has happened. Yes, definitely we are looking into that, and we will see that the culprits are brought to book, and immediately they will be sent to the trial, and the dispensation of justice will be faster. That is one way of doing. Then if you go to the institutional difficulties of that thing, because the girl was in the 4th floor, she was taking rest in a seminar room. So what happened to the infrastructure facilities that are there in the institution? So immediately you should take up with the medical authorities, and you should be able to convince them, because ultimately the ire of the public is on the police, because the crime has happened. It is the failure of the government. Any crime on the street or any crime that is committed is the failure of the government. That is how people will think. So you have to think in those lines. You should never develop any type of animosity against the people. Then what happens is you start using your brute force against the public, which is not correct. Only in exceptional circumstances you are supposed to use force. Otherwise, you are supposed to convince people with your professionalism, with your preparedness, how to go about it. Now the Supreme Court has asked the to set up a national task force to look into the infrastructural facilities or to protect the doctors in the country. So these are certain things which the police have to anticipate. I mean, out of one incident, because attack on police is going on most of the places. So these things are happening elsewhere. So out of this, we should be able to come out with something. So suppose say when I was working in Thane, Maharashtra, there was an incident like this. So then immediately we held a meeting with all the doctors, professionals. Then we came out with a standard operating procedure, how we should go about it. After that, there was no incident like that. So the police have to always, you should see in a perspective. You should have a vision. If something can happen here, it can happen elsewhere also. How to prevent it? So youngsters, what you are always talking them, so they need to have commitment and they should have the understanding of the people. Policing job is not that easy. It's a tough job. It's a very tough job because every day you have to build up your reputation. Because you have built your reputation. Suppose some incident happens, the whole reputation, what you have built, it comes down. Again, you have to start from zero. So, if you are alert and if you have a preventive way of approaching a problem, then this reputation building up will be easier. So, I request all the youngsters who are joining the law enforcement to give maximum emphasis to prevention of crime. Crime prevention, how you can do. If you can concentrate, once the crime is prevented, you can be comfortable. More is the crime, more is the work for you. More is the prevention, you can be comfortable. So they have to concentrate and they have to be impartial and they should not be under the beck and call of the politicians. Many of the officers after joining, they try to be with the ruling party. This is what some of the officers, they try to
Kind of please them.
appease them for the postings. Generally what happens is for the postings. So because media calls them as plum postings or other postings, they call it as a loop line postings. So these type of terminologies are there in the this thing also. So everybody wants to be in a plum post. How can everybody be there? Then some officer, they try to become closer to the politicians, and in the process the reputation of the police force is going to go down, because you are answerable to the law, you are answerable to the courts. So if that type of mentality is developed, I am ready to go anywhere. What best a politician can do, they can transfer you. So be prepared for it. But don't try to appease somebody because you are not an individual, you are representing an organization. Whatever you do, that is going to affect the reputation of the organization. If that you can keep in your mind, then I think things will be very, very easy. And policing is a tough job, that too in the present form, because of the governments, because of the politics, because of the non-cohesion in the society, because of the political people using to divide people. So all these things are there. So it becomes very, very challenging job. But at the same time, it is very enjoyable job also. Once you prevent or once you establish yourself or establish the reputation of the organization, or if you can enhance the reputation of organization, it gives you immense satisfaction. So there is a lot to do in this. So I encourage all youngsters to join the police and work for the society and for the betterment of the society. As I said, development is possible only by ensuring law and order. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, like as a common person, like who have seen many documentaries or listened to many interesting cases, like there's a common doubt in all of this that, as we all know, the most complex or the cases that can't be solved by the police are generally handed over to the CBI in India, which is a very higher institution. So abroad, when we see there are many cases that are solved even after 30, 40 years also. So, I mean, do you think we are that equipped, or where is the lag? Because there are some cases. I think I shouldn't name them, but because of the destruction of the evidence or whatsoever, when it finally comes to you, there have been a lot of lapses. So, how do you handle that situation?
That is basically, as I mentioned, educating people. Because ultimately in police investigation also, you need the cooperation of the people. Suppose I go to a spot, when I drop the Panchanama or the scene of crime, that needs to be signed by two independent witnesses. Always I need the cooperation from the people. But nowadays what is happening is, everybody says that so far I have not gone to the police station, I have never climbed the steps of a court. This is what many people say that. So because of that, the cooperation between the public and police is very crucial for investigations. So that's why I always say people need to be educated about the intricacies or the about the complicated investigations also. That's why I said from 6th standard onwards you should introduce law as a subject, so that the duty of a citizen to assist police is also one of the duties as per law. So once they realize it, during investigation they will be cooperative with the police, because ultimately these witnesses, they have to come in the court and they have to depose before the judge, because a confession before police is not admissible in the court of law. So the policeman is supposed to collect evidence and he has to present to the court. The collection of evidence is possible with the cooperation of the people only. As you mentioned, the destruction of the scene of crime. If people are educated that something has happened, police is going to come for investigation, this scene of crime has to be protected. So they will take care. Otherwise, nowadays, out of anger, what they are doing is they are destructing or they are disturbing the scene of crime. That is what I mean, as per media reports in this RG Kar medical college also, a mob came and they disturbed the entire scene of crime. That's what is the thing that is reported. So protecting the scene of crime or securing the scene of crime, cooperating with the investigating agencies, coming to the court and deposing before the judges, these are all the duties of the citizens. So we need to educate them. If we do it, then that's why I always say a policeman is a citizen in uniform. A citizen is a policeman without uniform. So both are doing the same job only. So both are police only. So there need to be a good interaction between the police, and for that police is also responsible. The way you behave with people, they will cooperate with you.
That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
Because a lot of public these days are still scared of the
You are
police
scared of the
because
police.
of the way of talking or
Yeah.
whatsoever. So I think there should be a
Education, yeah, win-win situation. The police also has to be educated. That's why I said this transactional analysis is very important. How you speak to the people. Generally, police have a tendency to treat everybody as a criminal. That is not the case. There are few criminals and there are so many good people in the society. So you have to win over the good people, and these criminals have to be afraid of you. This is what it is. That's why Maharashtra police, which I served, it says Sadarakshanaya Kala Nigrahanaya. That means protecting the good people and punishing the bad people. So that is how you should. It all depends on your behavior. You have to behave in such a way that a good person should be with you. You should voluntarily come and you should be able to assist police. That depends on the how you behave. So it is the responsibility of the senior officials to ensure that the policeman at the police station, maybe at the beat, maybe at the traffic signal, he behaves well with the people, so that a general reputation is built. That's why we call a friendly police. If you could see Telangana police, they say they are people's friendly police. So really that people friendliness should be displayed. Good people should be with you and criminals should be afraid of you. That is how it should be.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So coming to a totally different aspect, with the intention of serving people, you had joined Pawan Kalyan's Janasena party and then later chose to resign. So can you tell us a bit about your political journey and the reason behind it?
Yeah. I left in 2018. I took voluntary retirement 7 years before my regular. Otherwise, my year of superannuation is 2025. That is next year. So I took voluntary retirement 7 years before. So I mean the circumstances at which I resigned, and then subsequently I came and I toured the entire state of Andhra Pradesh and Telangana. Then I said that you need to be having some political power if you want to change. Otherwise, as an individual, I can change the society to the a little extent. So that's why if I get the political power, I can reform the society in much better way. That's how I thought Politics is the resort. So then I joined the Janasena party and I contested elections also. Then I left the party. So then I started my own party now. It's called Jai Bharat National Party, and we participated in the elections also. I mean, basically, people have to be educated on the political front also, because ultimately the representatives of the people are ruling them. I mean, the MLAs and MPs, they elect the chief minister and in turn they rule. Because ultimately in the democracy, the power is with the people. So the people have to participate in the political process, I say. Just by going to a polling booth and voting, that is not the end of it. So you have to be there in the 5-year tenure. You have to continuously monitor the performance of your public representatives. You should be demanding and you should be telling them this is what is required. If they don't perform well, I mean, in fact, we are suggesting that there should be a system of recall also. So if an MLA or MP is not performing well, he should be called, he should be recalled.
That's not.
I mean, you need to bring such changes in the law. You should bring such changes in the system. You should get some changes, because there are about 22 countries in which you have a system of recall. If they don't do good, I mean, they are supposed to get back, and the man who is next in the election or in the second position, he will become the MLA. He will become the MP. So that type of threat has to be there. Once I am elected, I can do whatever I want. That type of tendencies should not be there. So we are basically working to bring some change in the election process and also in the electoral system, and also how the public representatives have to function. So this is what on the grounds we are working now. So my political journey is continuing, and I'll see that whatever best I can do, I'll definitely do for the public.
Sir, and we also came to know that you are very much interested in rural development and agriculture. So, where did that stem from?
Yeah, because as I mentioned, a policeman has to know the understand the people. So as a police officer in Maharashtra, I used to interact with the farmers, because farmers are a big force in Maharashtra. If you see the Maharashtra politics, it revolves around farmers and agriculture. And you have the sugar factories and all, with the sugar lobby, which they call, plays a very important role in Maharashtra politics. There were strong leaders from them. Mr. Sharad Joshi was there. There is an organization called Shetkari Sangatana, which is a very powerful farmers organization. So during my interactions, I used to know so many things about the farmers and the farming, their difficulties. So in certain instances, I intervened, and I intervened on behalf of the farmers, and I got them minimum support price from the chief minister also. Because ultimately you have to look after the farmers. Because you and me, I mean, you can be there without a cell phone, or you can be there without anything, but you can't live without food. So this has to be given by the farmers, because they are very important people in the society. So I always have a concern for the farmers. Of course, rural development also, because India lives in villages. There are 6,12,000 villages, and still you have 50 to 6, more than 60% people living in the rural areas. Once the rural areas develop, India is going to develop. The constitutional 73 and 74 amendments are very important for decentralization of power. The ward members and sarpanches of villages are very important people than the chief minister of a state. That is how I look at it. So the decentralization is very important. So on decentralization also, now I am doing a PhD on model villages. I am studying model villages in the country. How few villages are becoming model villages? Because we are in Telangana, you have Mulkanur, you have Gangadevipalli, you have Mariapalem, you have so many villages which have become model villages. How these villages are becoming model villages? Why not all 6,12,000 villages model villages? That is my project. I am doing my PhD in that. I am pursuing my PhD in that, because ultimately villages have to be developed. Rural employment has to be created so that you can avoid the urban migration. If you see, the cities are getting crowded nowadays. Cities are getting crowded because of that. Lot of encroachments are taking place. Because of the encroachments, you don't have proper drainage. So that is how now Hydra is working in Telangana. Removing all the encroachments and all. That is basically because of rural migration. You need to create employment in the rural areas so that the rural employment can be created, migration can be controlled. So on these areas, I have my own interest, because of, I said, as a police officer, I never used to sit I used to interact with people. I used to go to the villages. I used to go to interact with them. In the process, they used to tell me so many issues. So that is where a policeman can play a very, very positive role. That's why I, as youngsters, you mentioned. So don't think that policing is only your subject. You, as a social reformer, a policeman can be a social reformer also. That role also you should be able to take. All civil servants, for that matter, not only policemen, because of the uniform, generally people listen. That is one thing, yeah. Because policemen, if you say something, they listen. So you can take the social reformer's role also. That is also possible. If all civil servants they take the role of a social reformer, then definitely the things are going to change. That is how this agriculture, this village rural development. I do farming also. I am a tenant farmer. I have taken 10 acres of land on lease and I do farming. So if you want to learn something, do it yourself. Then you will come to know what are the problems. Yeah.
Sir, another very inspiring aspect of yours is blood donation. So you have participated and conducted almost 60 blood donation drives till now. So is there any particular, personal reason or experience that has propelled you towards blood donation?
Yeah, that is very true. I donated blood 61 times so far. So it started when I was a student. I was a student in IIT. Then there used to be a doctor called Dr. Cherian. He was a very famous cardiologist. He used to work in a hospital called Vijaya Hospital in Chennai, Madras, that time when we were students. Actually, he was performing a surgery on a infant, I think about 6-month-old boy, cardiac surgery. So for that, he wanted live blood donors. So then we received a message in IIT. So 6 of us, we went to the hospital. We were there ready to donate our blood. So then the doctor performed his surgery. We donated blood also. I mean, he could save the child. And he, in fact, he came and he thanked us for being the donors, blood donors, so that the boy could survive. That gave me a very happy feeling, because those two, the poor parents of the child also, they were profoundly thanking us. I said, this blood donation or your blood has so much of value. Then I understood. Then the doctor himself told us, you youngsters, every year you can donate blood at least 3 times. From that day onwards, we started. So I made it a point that every year I donate thrice. So that's why I could reach about 61 donations so far. So donation is very important. So I'm taking this as a drive, and also in fact I tell everybody, especially the youngsters, on your birthdays you celebrate and this thing. On that day you donate 1 unit of blood, because there are so many patients who are having difficulties in procuring blood to their near and dear. So if you can become voluntary donors, and there are cases of thalassemia also. Thalassemia children, they need blood every 15 days and 1 month. So they are in need of blood. So there is so much of youth force in the country. So there should not be any deficiencies. So like this we need to do. So that is how from that day onwards it has become a passion for me, and I keep encouraging youngsters also to donate blood.
That's really inspiring, sir. So, in the context of the upcoming World Democratic Day, so what do you think are the biggest challenges that the democracies around the world are facing, especially India, and how can we, as the biggest democracy in the world, uphold our democratic culture so that we can serve our citizens better?
Yeah. As you mentioned, 15th September, I think, is the World Democracy Day, and they are going to. I think there are about 92 democracies in this entire world. Out of that, they say 24 are the real democracies, and they classified into, I think, 4 types of democracies. One is the full-fledged democracy, the flawed democracies, then hybrid democracies, and failed democracies. You have 4 categories. The Economist paper is there, and they generally give the rankings to different countries depending on the public cooperation, then your civil liberties, and your fundamental rights, which are whether being protected or not. On this, there are about 60 parameters divided into 5 subsections. They classify the countries into different states. I think we stand somewhere around 41. I think we are ranked about 41. So, democracy is very important. It is a very good form of governance, because you have different forms of democracies. You have direct democracies, you have presidential form of democracy, you have parliamentary form of democracy, which we have here, and you have hybrid form of democracy, and you have social democracy, you have religious or Islamic democracy. There are so many ways of classifying the democracies also. Ultimately, the people are the rulers. That is what is the bottom line in any democracy. The people's voice has to be heard, and people should rule. That's what Abraham Lincoln also said. A democracy is of the people, by the people, and for the people. This is what is the definition given by Mr. Abraham Lincoln. But of late, what is happening? Of the people is becoming of the people, OFF. By the people, BY, it is becoming BUY, by the people. And for the people, it is becoming FAR, FAR. So the people who are the foundation of this democracy are being neglected. So the election process or the electoral process is going to decide what type of democracy you are going to have. But here you are conducting elections, there is no doubt. But afterwards, is the democracy there? Whether somebody can openly express his opinion. So there are so many constraints, there are so many restrictions, whether you can protest or whether your voice is going to be heard. All these things are big question marks before you. So in fact, the media is very important, because we are sitting in a recording room and we are recording. Media plays a very important role in protecting the democracy, because ultimately the legislature, the executive and the judiciary, their performance is supposed to be assessed by the media, and they should be able to educate the people. But in a flawed democracies, I always say media is also taking side of a particular parties. That is what is happening nowadays. So you see some media houses, they blindly support a political party. They take the stand of that political party, which is not correct. The media is supposed to be neutral. They should present before the people what is happening, and you should leave the people to take a decision. You should not try to put your decision into the people's, and you should not do it. So that's why they say such democracies are called flawed democracies, wherein you have fundamental rights but you are not able to enjoy them. So then the democracy is not a real democracy. So the governments have to ensure that it is ultimately the people who are going to rule. They are going to be the rulers. These are only the servants. They are only representatives. So the participation of public in the decision making process is very, very important. Whether you have the liberty, whether you have the equality, whether you have the justice. So these are going to be very important. The preamble of our constitution, if it is implemented to the letter and spirit, that is the real democracy. Is there equality? Is there liberty? Whether you have the freedom? Yeah, liberty, equality and fraternity. Whether you have fraternity in the society. But for their own benefit, the political parties are dividing people on the caste lines and the religious lines. When can there be a fraternity among the people? The common brotherhood that we say, it is no more existing nowadays because of this political. So ultimately, if this democracy has to survive, it is the political reformations that are very important. Reforms in the political process, reform in the electoral process, they are going to play a very important role in restoring democracy, or in preserving the democracy, or in protecting the democracy. So the responsibility on the shoulders of the politicians is very important. So that's why I always say good people should come into politics. Many people say politics is not our cup of tea. So that tendency should go. Good people should venture into politics. You should bring some change in the politics. It's a difficult thing, but it's not an impossibility. So I always say good people should come to politics. For them to come, you should have a level playing field. You should bring so many electoral reforms. Nowadays, people think that if you have money, you can be a public representative.
I was about to say that, so because when you say good people have to, contest in elections, I think the first barrier for them is like having money or having a kind of force behind them to support them.
But if it is a real democracy, why you should have money to get elected as a representative?
Ideally, yes, but
yes. So we have to bring into an ideal situation. That's why they call many countries as a flawed democracy. So only political democracy is there, but social democracy is not there. Economic democracy is not there. Cultural democracy is not there. There is no equality. Then what is the meaning of this democracy? So democracy should ensure all these things. For that, in especially democracies where a representative democracies, the representatives become very, very important because they are representing the people. So what type of representatives you have? If 39% of the parliamentarians have criminal record, what type of democracy we are in? So all these things people have to think. So media channels and people like us, we should educate people on what type of people they should be able to elect. Then the real democracy will be there. Maybe for the temporary this thing, if you forego, then you are going to suffer in the days to come. So on the eve of World Democracy Day, let us remember our responsibilities, each individual, maybe a voter, maybe a representative, or maybe a legislature, maybe the executive, maybe the judiciary, maybe the media. We all have individual roles to perform in the society. And there is a way of performing these duties. If you fail performing these duties, then democracy is going to be in trouble. That we should not allow to happen. So, I mean, World Democracy Day, let us remember that, and let us see that the democracy survives. The flawed democracy will become real democracies. Then if the democracy is good, then corruption is also going to be good. Suppose if you see the countries which are in the first 1 to 10, these are all the Scandinavian countries, Norway, Sweden, Iceland. These are the countries wherein they are the top democracies. Their corruption is also less. So corruption and democracy, they go hand in hand. So we need to ensure that we have the best democracy and we have the best public representatives. For that, the voters have to exercise their franchise or voting right in the most systematic way and the most intelligent way, and not falling prey to the promises, because during elections people come and give so many promises. We'll give this free, because freebies are now have become the tendency nowadays of late of the political parties. Everything we give free. That is not possible. If you want real development, you should create employment and you should ensure liberty, equality and fraternity. Then the democracies are going to survive.
Absolutely, sir. Makes sense.
Yeah.
So let's have a fun rapid fire round now. Okay, the first question. If you could have dinner with any historical figure, who would it be and why?
Swami Vivekananda, of course, is I always. So you can say historians, I give Swami Vivekananda.
Great, sir. What's your favorite hobby to unwind?
I keep reading books, mostly non-fiction.
So if you were a character in a movie, what genre would it be and who would play you?
I always say my character should be to reform the society. And given a chance, I would like to play my role myself. Yeah.
So if you had to pick a superpower, what would it be and how would you use it?
As I mentioned, the family, the school and the spirituality. These are the three things. These are the simple powers, but according to me, they are the superpowers. Yeah.
Next, you should choose this or that.
Yeah.
Formals or casuals?
Yeah, I go for casuals generally.
Irani chai or filter coffee?
Irani chai.
Cricket or football?
Yeah, of course, cricket is our this thing. I mean,
Andhra cuisine or Telangana?
But of course, Telangana cuisine I like.
Horror or comedy?
I like comedy.
So, do you think actors can make good politicians? Yes or no?
Provided they don't act in politics.
If Pawan Kalyan Garu invites you to join his party again, will you?
Yeah, that is always there because I want to work for the people. Yes.
Yes. If you weren't in law enforcement, what career might you have pursued?
I said teaching.
Teaching. Yeah,
Yes.
very much interested in
Yes.
teaching. So, this was your rapid fire. Thank you so much. I mean, your talk was absolutely inspiring and we have a lot of key takeaways. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. You did it well. Huh?
Thank
All
you.
the best to you.
Thank you. That was an amazing conversation with JD Lakshminarayana. Hope you enjoyed the podcast. For more such interesting content, subscribe to Bizz.